As discussed in the previous part of this video series, once you have an approved permit and you've got your plan together and have cleared your site ready for accepting the actual concrete itself, you can go ahead and begin digging the footings. In this case, we'll be going a full 42-inch as the foundation is over 600 square feet, and per code, here in Michigan, you would be required to go 42 inches to meet the frost depth line. In the image, you can see that I've hired a crew to actually construct the foundation for me as a contract service, and they've already begun digging in their form boards as well as placing of the 21 AA base that is required. You have to have about 4 inches of compacted either gravel or sand or similar per code underneath your slab. Once the formwork has been completed and the entire base has been placed and compacted properly, you can go ahead and get what's called your sand and trench inspection or footing inspection. This has to be passed prior to going ahead and pouring the concrete, or the city will genuinely make you take the entire foundation out of the ground and start all over again if they haven't approved your trench and sand footing. After passing the inspection, the last items that we placed were the vapor barrier as well as the remesh and rebar that I had spec'd out per the foundation design prior to getting the concrete delivered. For this size foundation, approximately 35 yards of concrete were required, so a total of 3 trucks were brought in from a ready mix plant, each delivering about 12 yards each, and they were poured in succession. It was the same truck driving back and forth to make sure that you don't have what's called a hot load, which is where the concrete begins to set actually inside the truck. This can be a huge problem. As the concrete is being poured, it's important to make sure that it's agitated correctly so that the successive loads that are poured don't have delineation lines where one load's been poured and starts setting and a second load doesn't really mix together with it, but instead sits on top. So it's important that the guys go in with tools to actually mix the concrete loads as they're being placed so that you have what's called a monopore. Here, the last of the concrete is being poured and they're starting to float the surface. I paid extra to have what's called a hard trowel finish. A lot of folks will just broom finish it, which is a cheaper and easier way to go. But a hard trowel finish, just in my opinion, looks significantly better and will give a nicer interior than a broom finish. Now, we poured later in the year, so I was lucky as far as the weather goes. If you live in an area where it's particularly hot, you'll need to keep the slab wet as it cures and basically sets, as it needs that moisture to harden. Concrete does basically a chemical reaction where the water helps it harden over time, which is why you have to keep off of it for a number of days or weeks to come up to full strength. If you take a look at, for example, a bag of ready mix, it'll tell you a certain strength after a number of days of curing properly. Lastly, you want to snap lines on your pad to cut in what are called expansion joints. This will allow the concrete to effectively to breathe, expand and contract with the changes in temperature, and have a predictable line where if the concrete were to have a crack, where it will propagate. It's basically a stress concentration point. Here's a final shot of what the slab looked like. It's a total of 1,008 square feet. It was 42 feet long by 24 feet wide, and then 42 inches deep, as required by code. Thank you again for making it through the video, and if you'd leave a like and subscribe, I would highly appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one, where we'll go over framing.